Lurking behind those cold brick walls says, come here, boy.
Oh, this is like what I've been waiting for, oh man. I've always wanted to do this, and this is just amazing.
Another cute, cheap thrill. You know you love him if you put him in your will, but who will save your soul when it comes to
Hi, I'm Sarah. Nice to meet you. Oh,
I think we got a Learjet.
yeah, it was pretty crazy. It was pretty wild. I have some questions that I'd like to ask. I've been reading your poetry a lot lately, and I was wondering if your poetry is inspired by things you've gone through in your own life, or if it's experiences you've seen other people go through.
It's both. Like, a lot of them are very personal and specific to my life.
You're always brilliant in the morning over coffee.
And then a lot of times, you know, it's observational, me in airports watching people or things like that.
Yeah.
Whereas my music, often I'll write in first person like Daddy, but it isn't about me.
Right.
You know?
I've heard that you were doing a movie, Ride with the Devil, and I was wondering if you'd like to tell us a little bit about the movie.
I really wanted to change. I was getting kind of bored with music, especially just being on the same record for 4 or 5 years or however long it was. So I really wanted a new challenge, and it was definitely a challenge. It was really hard. And I chose a really hard, dramatic role instead of just something light and funny. So it was good. I'm ready to go back to music, though.
Since you've been doing writing poetry and singing and the acting, I was wondering which of them you prefer.
I'm glad I'm a writer. Being able to express yourself is a very, very valuable tool. It helps me become a better person.
You've written many songs, and I was wondering what your most autobiographical song you've written to date.
They all are, in a way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Put on my coat and that coat.
I was reading your poetry book, and I read this poem Sarah said, and it was my name was Sarah. I read it first. And I was just I was really taken aback at first just because I was reading it, and I was reading about how the 15-year-old girl was, you know, couldn't really say no to any guys, and, you know, was going through all this turmoil. And I'm adopted in my family, and I was always kind of resentful towards my biological parents. But when I read that, it was kind of thinking, you know, maybe it wasn't just the fact that they just, like, you know, just gave me up. Maybe it was the fact that, you know, there were problems going on, there were things, you know, and I was kind of being selfish, just thinking, you know, she just gave me up. It gave me a lot of just kind of peace and understanding that, you know, I should be more open-minded about things, and I shouldn't just be like...
I know, it's hard with parents, because you always feel like they should be superhuman. You know what I mean? Because they're dealing with your, like, they can mess you up, or they can make you great. You know, we're so vulnerable to them. At the same time, it's like, God, they're human.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, you can't help but feel like, okay, I know how... It doesn't make it all right, but I can understand it a little better.
Yeah.
You know?
But I was wondering where you got the inspiration for that specific poem, if you were...
It's funny, when I was doing the book, I was a little worried about putting the really frank poems in, like Sarah said. I decided, like, what I loved as a kid was honest writing, like a Nice Nin or Bukowski or whatever it was. I liked people saying things that were real. I wrote that song just because, you know, when I was a kid, there was lots of kids having sex, like at 12. And I was like,
yeah. What?
12.
Right.
Like Barbie doll.
Right.
Like,
right.
But at the same time, you know, it was just like, I went to school when sex ed was really common. I'm sure you did too. They teach you how to put condoms on, and you know, the whole 9 yards. But they didn't teach me about, like, valuing myself. And I look at women, I guess because I grew up in bar rooms too. I see a lot of women and the waitresses and how they just are so flattered for any attention, even if it's sweaty, drunk attention. Whereas if, like, I was taught at a younger age to value myself more, just as myself, not like a religious thing and not anything, but almost like a more just, you know, to be careful with yourself and to be careful who you give yourself to, whether it's, you know, romantically, physically, or even emotionally. So to me, it's about that, not just sex, but just sort of like being careful with yourself.
I was also wondering, how do you write your songs? Do you just, like, sit down and write them, or does it take, you know, weeks, and do you just come back to it?
You know, I always wrote, like, I wrote this first album, Pieces of You, really accidentally. It was just like a creative adventure.
I go back.
I didn't think I was a songwriter. It was just, I wrote Whole Saver Soul when I was your age, when I was 16.
Yeah.
And now that I'm touring all the time, picking up my guitar is harder.
Well, you obviously, you know a lot about the Everyday Angels group on the internet, and I was just kind of wondering, do you consider them more than just a fan?
Well, I was really freaked out about the whole fan thing. I remember talking to my mom about it. My mom's the manager. I'm like, I don't know about this whole thing.
Yeah.
Because I was never like that. Like, but I'd get inspired by people, and so I decided, like, okay, I'm going to try and inspire people and not have them idolize me.
I know you started performing when you were very young with your family. Do you have any specific time that you remember that was, like, really great or just sticks out?
I remember one of the first times I ever got up on stage. I would wear lederhosen. And I had really long hair, and it was braided, and I would get so nervous that I would laugh in the middle of it, or I'd start to hiccup. So I'd yodel, 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 6 or something.
How has your career changed over the time that you've been a performer?
I think that if I hadn't spent all those years bar singing with my dad, I don't think I could have toured solo like I did, you know, opening for Peter Murphy or the Ramones or Everclear in front of 20,000 kids. If I hadn't had all those years of bar experience of just like, you will listen and I'm going to get you, damn it, you know?
Thank you for really everything you've done for everybody. I mean, it's really cool. And you may not realize it, but you've really inspired so many people, and it's really made a difference, especially in my life. Seriously.
Now embarrassing the artist.
If everything is really nice.
Bye. Tell everyone hi.
I will. Thank you so much.